everyone, welcome back to Modern Retro Gal. My name's JL. Today's video is going to be all about buying cruelty-free products. This is going to be a simplified version of what that means, what that entails, how that's something that you can incorporate into your life, and I am going to include resources down below. So if it's been something that has been on your mind or you've struggled with, this is going to be a pretty straightforward video for all of you. If you are new to my channel, hello, how are you? I'm so happy to have you here. I hope you will stay. A little bit about myself. I review and recommend products that I love that are cruelty-free and often vegan. I also like to do makeup tutorials. They're usually either a little more modern, a little more retro, but they're always mature skin and hooded eye friendly, and I do plan on throwing in a few fashion videos here and there. So if that's something that sounds good to you, I hope you'll stick around. Please hit that subscribe button down below and don't forget about the bell so you will be notified whenever I upload. So if you're ready to learn about how you can be more confident in your cruelty-free journey, let's get going. All right, so this is going to be a pretty straightforward, simple discussion about cruelty-free. I'm really not going to get into brand specifics very much. This is really more just about encouraging your journey if it's something that you're looking into, and sort of talking a little bit about mine and kind of the ins and outs. So I do want to put out a couple of, I guess, PSAs at the very beginning of this video, because I think it often discourages people in their journey of trying to be more cruelty-free and buying more cruelty-free brands. And it can be very overwhelming and confusing, and sometimes a couple of things can kind of cause stumbling blocks along the way. I will also say my daughter is downstairs watching apparently some hilarious videos, so if you hear a lot of giggling and laughing in the background, that is her. So first off, I want to say is that I have been on this journey for about probably the better part of 8 years, and I am not perfect. There are always times when I get really frustrated and I think I've done all my research and I purchase something from a brand and it turns out they're not cruelty-free, or if I'm on a trip somewhere and I've forgotten something and I'm trying to like find a replacement that isn't super expensive because I know I have the full size back home somewhere. So sometimes you're kind of just stuck with what you have available in certain situations. So, you know, buying cruelty-free, I feel like as a journey, it's not a linear journey. This isn't a straight line. You know, there's always going to be times when you're doing better or when you're doing worse. There's always going to be people out there who think like you are not cruelty-free enough or whatever the case. So don't get discouraged by the journey or feel like you have to commit to it 100% right away, or you're not somehow you're failing at it. It's definitely not like that. Anything that you can purchase that is cruelty-free is helping other brands understand with your money, with your purchase, that this is what you prefer. This is what you would like to see from these brands. So even if you're only purchasing a couple of products that are cruelty-free, you're still making a difference. This isn't an all or nothing kind of situation. The other thing is that there will always be people in the community, which I don't really consider myself a part of. It's just something that I do for me personally, but I have found, and I feel like it's sort of like relaxed a little bit. A good like 4 years ago, it was really intense, but there will always be people who will want to call others out and be like, that brand isn't really cruelty-free because of X, Y, and Z, or that product isn't really cruelty-free because it's not vegan, or just different reasonings that people will come up with. And it can be really confusing and discouraging. So if whatever point that you're at in your journey, don't be discouraged and don't feel like it's not worth the hassle, because in the end, like I said, you are making a difference with every product, even if it's just one. Every product that you purchase that is cruelty-free, it is sending a message to the company that you buy it from, to encourage them to remain cruelty-free, and to other brands that this is something that you want and to see from them. The other PSA really that I'm going to put out there is that I'm going to be speaking mostly for here in the US because that's where I live. Here, cruelty-free is really, it's almost like a marketing or a buzzword. There's no governmental agency that oversees brands being cruelty-free. There's some laws being passed state to state. I don't really see much of a change in that, in what's being purchased. Like here in California, there's supposed to be a law passed that only brands that do not test on animals can sell their products in California. There's a lot of brands that are still here available that are not cruelty-free, so I'm not really sure what the loophole is with that, but there's really no governmental agency overseeing the labeling of cruelty-free. So really any brand, whether or not they're cruelty-free, can put that on their packaging, and there's nobody to really stop them from doing that. So that's really something to kind of understand, is that this is a voluntary thing that brands do. And so it can be really confusing, which is why I do have a couple of resources down below. And before we kind of get too much further, I do want to make mention of them. Number one is Tashina from Logical Harmony. I'm going to link her blog down below. She used to do a lot of YouTube videos, but she hasn't been lately. So I don't know if and when she's going to get back to that, but I do know that she is maintaining her website and her blog about cruelty-free products. The other is Jennifer from My Beauty Bunny, and I will also link her down below. She's very active on Instagram and her website blog. I don't really see her uploading videos very much anymore on YouTube, but I feel like they both have a very balanced viewpoint of cruelty-free. Tashina from Logical Harmony is vegan, and so all of the products that and brands that she recommends are vegan. The one thing that I really like about her is that she, in her recommendations, also include brands that are not wholly vegan, but do have vegan products. So for people who are just looking for vegan products, you can shop within brands that maybe aren't fully cruelty-free, that aren't fully vegan. Jennifer at My Beauty Bunny has a very balanced viewpoint of brands that maybe their parent company isn't cruelty-free, which we'll get into the difference in that, including indie brands, really shouting out and encouraging brands who maybe have become cruelty-free more recently and saying, hey, like, we need to give these brands, you know, a chance. Like, they've made this change. This is what we've been asking for. So, you know, let's give their products a try. So I really like both of them. They have a really balanced viewpoint. It's not, it doesn't come across angry or, you know, they're not like bashing brands that aren't cruelty-free, or maybe were cruelty-free and stopped being cruelty-free. I think they just have a really balanced approach to it. So let's discuss for a minute what it means to be cruelty-free. And like I said before, there's no governmental agency that sort of oversees this, and it's really comes down to personal opinion and what cruelty-free means to you. So the general consensus is to be cruelty-free means a brand, whatever it is that they are creating, whether it's beauty or clothing, that from their ingredient suppliers to their finished product are cruelty-free, and at no time has there been any testing of the product or the ingredients on animals. If you want to include vegan into that, if that's something that's important to you, then there is no animal byproducts whatsoever, which would include things like silk, lanolin, carmine, beeswax. A lot of collagen is animal-based, not plant-based. So any of those things would also not be included in the products. From there, it sort of splinters out. Some people feel like the company as a whole has to be cruelty-free, which means if they're owned by a parent company, for instance, a brand like NYX is now owned by L'Oreal. NYX itself is cruelty-free, however, L'Oreal Incorporated is not, generally as a parent company with all of their other brands. And so for some people, NYX would not be cruelty-free because their parent company is not cruelty-free. So that's something that sort of gets into like when it sort of gets confusing and there's all these like different things going on. For some people, being cruelty-free includes things like clean beauty or green beauty. I'm going to be honest, I personally feel like those are buzzwords. That starts sort of talking about things being toxic or toxic ingredients or chemicals, and I have very strong feelings about all of that. But if that's something that is important to you as a means of being cruelty-free, then that's for each individual to decide. Some brands tend to fall into what's called a gray area, and that means for all intents and purposes, they appear to be cruelty-free. However, there is certain questions that they may avoid when it comes to their suppliers and certifying or kind of like guaranteeing that their suppliers are not cruelty-free. So if their suppliers are not cruelty-free or they don't know for sure and they don't plan on looking into it, then are they really cruelty-free even if from the time they get their products to the finished product, they guarantee that that process is not cruelty-free. So it can get very confusing, and I really feel like it's up to each person to just kind of decide where you're going to draw that line in the sand. And there's no right or wrong answer to that. There's no one's line is more correct than the other person when buying something cruelty-free. It really just has to do with you as a person and what you're comfortable with. So that is kind of generally what it means for a brand to be cruelty-free. You know, like I said, it can get a little bit confusing and daunting. Trying to make heads or tails over who is cruelty-free can be a full-time job, which is why I leave it to the experts. So when you are trying to buy cruelty-free, how can you know if a brand is cruelty-free or not? Well, number one, I would say check out their shopping guides. They have an entire list of products that will tell you whether or not a brand is cruelty-free. What if you are out and you just forget about their resources? Well, number one, you can check a brand's packaging. Most brands who are cruelty-free will have it somewhere on their packaging that they do not test on animals or are cruelty-free. The problem, like I said, is that it's not regulated, and so brands who aren't cruelty-free can put it on their packaging. Some brands that are cruelty-free don't put it on their packaging. So just because it's not on their packaging doesn't mean that they necessarily aren't. But at this point, with consumers really wanting to see brands become more cruelty-free, you're starting to see it more and more on packaging. If you're in a store like Ulta or Sephora and you have a question about a brand, most of the time the employees should know whether or not a brand is cruelty-free. But like I said, you know, if you have the guides, if you have your phone with you, you can always take a quick peek at their shopping list. You can also check a company called Leaping Beauty, and they actually certify brands that are cruelty-free within their definition of cruelty-free. They are pretty stringent definitions, and so for a brand to submit and be certified by them, it is pretty in-depth, and there's a lot that they have to prove before they can get that certification. PETA also has lists, but I have my feelings about PETA. I feel like they can be a little bit controversial even within the cruelty-free community of keeping the best up-to-date lists for that. So just because a brand maybe isn't on their list doesn't mean that they aren't necessarily cruelty-free. It just means that they have not been certified by PETA or Leaping Bunny. I have personal feelings about this. A lot of times the certifications require a payment to be certified. It's not like they can just go on their list. They have to pay for the certification. This can be quite costly. I have seen brands, at least with Leaping Bunny, leave the Leaping Bunny certification program because it was such a high cost for them to continue with the certification that they would have had to increase their prices for their products in order to continue with that. It doesn't mean that they're not cruelty-free anymore. It doesn't mean that anything has changed. It just means that they no longer want to pay for that certification. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Like, yes, you're getting this extra layer of knowledge, knowing that these companies have submitted to these other organizations standards for cruelty-free, but they do have to pay for it, which to me is like, well, then that company is really for profit and not necessarily doing this to really help other companies to be cruelty-free. I don't know. I kind of have like ins and out feelings about brands being certified cruelty-free. So one of the things that I try to do when I am shopping is do my research beforehand. And yes, it gets exhausting. Like sometimes you're just out shopping and you just want to grab something and know that it's cruelty-free. Doing your due diligence and kind of having like a pocket list of brands from places like Ulta or Sephora or wherever it is that you're shopping, even drugstores, just kind of having like a pocket list, maybe somewhere on a note saved on your phone, will kind of help you be able to go through the aisles and say, okay, this brand is cruelty-free and this brand is cruelty-free. It gets even more confusing when you go from makeup to skincare and hair care, and like body care, like soaps and deodorants and that sort of thing. It gets into like a whole other thing. So kind of having that shopping list saved somewhere on your phone, or maybe like a piece of paper in your purse or your wallet, can be really helpful when buying cruelty-free. It can also change. Brands can go from being cruelty-free to not cruelty-free overnight. It depends on where they're allowing their products to be sold. Right now, there are certain countries that do still require testing on animals at different phases of the products for them to be able to be sold, basically like in their country, not online, but in stores. A lot of that is changing, and it's changing quickly, and a couple of these countries are kind of on their way out of that policy. And so I don't want to kind of dive too deep into that, because I don't want it to turn into like it's their fault that these brands aren't cruelty-free. It's not. It's up to the brand to decide how they want their products to be viewed or sold, or I don't even really know the right phrasing for this, but it's up to them to decide whether they want their brand and their company to be cruelty-free. There's a lot of brands that have been very successful that decided not to sell in these countries that do require animal testing. And so it can be done. You can be successful as a business and not sell in those countries. So if a company basically says, well, we want our products to be sold in that country so that we can tap into that consumer market, well, that's the decision that you made, and you made the decision to really not be cruelty-free. So that's kind of the bottom line with that. So I'm trying to think if I have kind of covered everything that I wanted to cover in this video. I think I have. Like I said at the beginning, I wanted this to kind of be more like informational, and I have the resources down below, but just kind of be a place where you can have a cheerleader behind you saying like what you're doing is okay, and what feels comfortable and right to you is okay. And it's really not up to anybody else to decide, when you're buying cruelty-free, what is right and what is wrong. It's your decision. and it's what feels right to you. So if you have not started the journey or are frustrated in the journey, do not feel alone. Feel free to ask like any questions down below, about my journey or any brands that I really love, any recommendations, any of my reviews about products are all products that are cruelty free. And I stand behind those. Even here on YouTube as a YouTuber, I have recommended products that were not cruelty free, and I thought that they were. I thought I did my due diligence. I looked at websites, and then come to find out, they lied. And sometimes brands do that. Sometimes they lie. So some of those videos are on private now because, they don't apply anymore. But if that brand ever did go cruelty free, I would unprivatize those videos and have those reviews because I ended up really liking the products, but I got duped and it happens. So, don't feel like it's so overwhelming that you just want to give up. It happens, and after a while you start to sort of, kind of becomes second nature. Like you can go through the aisles and you can look at brands and you're like, I know that one's cruelty free and that one's cruelty free and that one's cruelty free. And it gets easier with time. So like I said, I've been doing on my journey probably about 8 years, and it's still as confusing as day one. So if you are unsure or don't know where to start, these two gals down below, this is their full-time job, and they do an excellent job at it and make it feel really, really simple. So definitely check out old videos of theirs. I will link their YouTube channels down below, and their social media. So definitely go through all of it. Check it all out. They're great. And like I said, I feel like out of a lot of the bloggers out there that are in the cruelty-free community, I feel like they have the most balanced viewpoint, which is something that I appreciate, because if you want to go stricter and more, what's the word I'm looking for? If you just kind of want to pull in the reins of what feels comfortable to you for cruelty-free, they will have all of that information in their websites on, what to look out for, parent company versus a non-parent, like an indie brand that doesn't have a parent company, vegan versus non-vegan, all that kind of thing. They're going to be a great resource for you. So I hope this helped a little bit. I just kind of wanted to have like a frank discussion about it, because I do feel like it can be so confusing at times, and hopefully kind of like break down some of those barriers. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer anything that I can. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to end this here because I'm babbling on a little bit longer than I hoped I would be. So I hope you all are doing really good. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.